What's good, everyone? Welcome back to My First Kicks. This is episode 165, and this week I welcome Zak Kurtz, aka Sneaker Legal, to the podcast. Look, this is going to be a fun episode. You know, I love when somebody is able to do their job through their passion, and that passion being sneakers. So we get to talk a little bit about how he found his way into becoming sneaker legal, the person that a lot of these brands and a lot of these people who are customizers like John Geiger, who are, clothing, streetwear, clothing people that need trademarks, like Sneaker Legal is there for them and you if you are one of those creatives and one of these people who are into just making sneakers or just creating clothes, stuff like that. So fun chat. We get to just learn a lot about Zak and his love for everything that we love. So if you aren't familiar with this podcast, or if I brought you in from the last podcast, just gonna put a full disclaimer out. Not every episode is gonna be an in-studio episode like Rainey's episode last week. If you haven't checked that out, check that out. Fun episode. But I am working my way into getting into the studio again. Just be on the lookout for that. I am also going to put out my short essays, video essays on just sneaker culture and streetwear culture. Just take a lot of time. I'm doing this. This is always full time in terms of just like my attention. I've been putting out content in terms of podcast content, making these clips. I am the person making the clips. So as I've said in other episodes, or if this is your first time listening, this is a one-stop shop when it comes to My First Kicks. I am the host. I am the producer. I am the editor. I am the director. All that good stuff. That's your boy. That's me. So please bear with me as some things may be delayed for now and some things may never come out, but I will be working on those essays. So I'm very excited to jump into this episode, but I got to talk about this shoe that dropped recently and the event that I was able to attend at Extra Butter. It was just a really cool time. If you were able to go there and I didn't see you, my bad. But I got to chat with Brother D, previous guest on the podcast. If you haven't listened to that episode, please listen to that episode. And we got to talk about just, life updates with him and how excited he is for the Kyrie ones. And I was too, and am, because it's currently in my rotation of ball sneakers. I really enjoy the sneaker. The event was cool. Got to see Fabio Foreign just do like 3 songs right in front of my face because I didn't know he was going to perform right there. Very cool. If you saw my story, then you saw kind of mostly what I got to experience. So it was very cool. Very interested to see the trajectory Anta takes with this shoe. And if you are following them on social medias and they post anything about that event, just know you're going to see a lot of me. And you're going to hear a lot about Zak just shortly. So on to where you can find Zak. You can follow him and his law firm at Sneaker Legal. That's SneakerLegal. Shout out to the lawyer. I don't know why I said that so New Yorkin. Hit up his website. Hit up their website. I gotta remember it's an actual LLC and team. LLC. It's an actual law firm or Esquire, right? Actual law firm. And you can hit up their website, sneaker.legal. Very insightful stuff he posts on the Instagram and Twitter about just everything sneakers. So if you want to see some more behind the scenes insights on trademarks that are coming out, or sneakers being trademarked, or brands being trademarked, and also whenever there's something crazy that happens with the legal stuff, his page is the place to go. So make sure you tap in. It's very cool, very interesting if you like that like nitty gritty stuff. And you know where to find me. I am Who Is Haas on all social media. Follow the podcast at My First Kicks Pod. If you have a My First Kick story, please write in myfirstkickspod@gmail.com. Would love to read it to a guest, especially an in-studio guest. Like I said, more coming on that. And follow the TikTok, My First Kicks My First Kicks Pod on TikTok, and then My First Kicks on YouTube. I'm almost to 250 subscribers. So if you are watching this and are not a subscriber, please, 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 please hit your boy with a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And also, if you're watching this video on YouTube, hit that like button. And everywhere else, just leave me a review. 5 stars, por favor. I will greatly appreciate it. And also, I was recently a guest on Buy Sell Talk, which is previous guest Leo's podcast and Sold Out New Jersey's podcast. Please, please go leave a comment or watch the episode. It's a fun chat. It's mostly like my takes. I get to be a guest on something. You know, I'm usually in host mode or podcast producer mode when it comes to my podcast, My First Kicks, everything My First Kicks. I'm always just trying to make sure the guest is welcome and the guest is talking about their stories and not overtaking their space, not trying to be Bert Kreischer out here. You know what I mean? So please give my episode a shot. Let me know what you think. Same with my guest appearance on Rob Hayes's Inconsistent podcast. If you want more of me talking about me or me giving my opinions, check those 2 out. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit those likes and subscribes on those as well. So on to this week's guest, Zak Kurtz. Hey, Zak, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yo, this is a long time coming, all right? Like, since 2022, ComplexCon, right? I think that's where we first met.
I think that was the first one. You're right. I think that was the first time I had there, obviously since COVID and all that stuff. But yeah, wow.
Yeah, shout out to Brian for introducing us. It was interesting. And then last year ran into you again, and you were on the move this time though.
I feel the same way. It was a blur this time. It was awesome. Every single second of it was awesome. But you're right. I just remember running around doing a million things and just meeting everyone. I was glad I got to see you though, even for that hot second. So
yeah, I mean, look, this time it was totally different. This time around, I had the media pass, and I was like, all right, I got to get interview after interview. But then I was like, I saw you, and then I wanted to be like, yo, let me get you on. But I think I was running to something that I don't remember, but I was like, oh snap, it's Zak. And then I tapped you, but you were on the phone. And I was like, yo, what's good? And then it was like a very like, yo, like you saw me, you're like, oh snap. And I was,
it was one of those moments we make eye contact, we're on the same page, we know what's up. And next thing you know, see you, man. So I'm glad you followed up though. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. So it's dope to finally be on.
No, yeah, for sure, man. And for people who aren't familiar with you, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Zak Kurtz. I have a law firm called Sneaker and Streetwear Legal Services, which is pretty much exactly as it sounds. It's a niche law firm that specializes in helping brands in sneaker and streetwear. We mainly do business law, contracts, transactional stuff, collaborations like that, as well as IP, trademarks, copyrights, patents, just with our motto is protect your brand. So a lot of fun stuff going on in sneakers and streetwear. And, we're really excited to have that niche all to ourselves just to help, these cool kind of clients and creatives.
No, yeah. I mean, it's such a tough, like, especially like a niche, like a niche thing. It's such a tough thing because, I mean, being a lawyer is I watch Suits, so my frame of reference is my favorite reference is Mike Ross right now. But like law just is so expansive where you can be, I don't know, plaintiff, or doing civil law and stuff like that. So I think it's really dope that you're able to pick something that is like in your lane of like your hobbies and interest, you know, and we're going to get into that a little bit more later too, but it's very interesting. And don't sell yourself short. You do make some amazing merch that you got to tell people about.
Thank you. I got the hat on today, but I didn't want to show up too much. But yeah, I appreciate it. We have some cool stuff going on, and just like you said, we try to be different. That's sort of, you know, how my law firm happened. It was organic because I'm into sneakers and streetwear and fashion and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. Like, it's the fun part is when we get to act like our clients and make merch and work with them and do stuff like that. So I love it.
No, yeah. And also you're like, what's really dope, I think, is you're very insightful on Twitter. If people are looking for more information on, say, something that's happened currently, you usually are on top of it. You look through everything. You do for perfect example is that TikTok lawyer where he's like, I read all the fine words so you don't have to on like these like crazy contracts. And you're like one of these people, but just for these crazy like copyright infringement and trademark infringement lawsuits. And I think it's absolutely wild.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's fun. It's like you said, when it's something you're passionate about, whether it's like sneakers, streetwear, you know, whatever it is, it's not even like reading. So like, it's actually cool to read the fine print and find out stuff that you would never even have thought about. But I appreciate it.
Yeah. But you're here to answer the question that I ask everybody each week. And that question is, what's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers you absolutely needed to have?
Oh, that is a tough one, but I don't know. I had a couple. I just remember growing up, I was, just like everyone, I was big into Jordan. I was a Knicks fan, but you know, the Jordans were so fire. So I think the first one I actually talked my mom into getting, I remember telling her, I'll wash the car every single day for the rest of, you know, the year, doing all this stuff. I don't know how that one worked, but she bought me the Jordan 10s, I think it was. I wanted them for so long, but it was the Jordan 10s. And, you know, they're, you know, dear to my heart. I literally wore them doing everything. Rec basketball, AAU basketball, soccer, kickball, every second. So that's how you did it back then.
I'm gonna read the description for the Jordan 10 Chicago. How about that?
I see how it is. Let's see. Yeah, the bottoms were cool. I like the bottoms. I
love the bottoms. I was just on Twitter today, and somebody posted, "What do you think is the best Jordan bottom?" And I'm not a big fan of the top of the 10, but that bottom always got me because
I totally agree.
The list of achievements were always like super cool to me.
Exactly. I told you that was my favorite part. The rest of the shoe is sort of basic, you know. I mean, it's cool. I like it. Like, I don't even think I have like one pair now. I have a million, but I think that's one of the ones I only have like one pair of. My favorite part was the bottom. And I remember I talked my mom into that and getting a poster from Walmart at the time where it was like, I've missed, you know, over, you know, 5,000 shots in my life. I've failed, you know, one of those Jordan posters that I still have up to this day. So that was like my first big score. I remember that.
All right, so I'm gonna read the 2015 Air Jordan 10 double nickel released. So released in March of 2015, the Air Jordan 10 double nickel celebrates the player exclusive Air Jordan 10 Chicago worn by Jordan on his return to the NBA in 1995. Double nickel references the 55 points he scored against our beloved New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden after a stint in minor league baseball. This 2015 version delivers a more faithful reproduction of the original 1995 Air Jordan 10 Chicago colorway than the 2012 Chicago in its shape, materials, and detailing.
Yeah, that was it. I remember when I got them in 95, whenever it was like literally, it wasn't white. It was like white, black, and was it gray or maybe a little light blue was the OG ones that first came out? They weren't like OG Jordan Bulls colors. I remember it was like white, black, and gray or white, black.
I think the first color, because he was in, this is when he was coming back from baseball. So I think the first colorway was the black, white, and silver.
Silver. That's what I was saying. Gray. Sorry. Yeah, for the Barons or wherever he played it. You're right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, like I said, this shoe, it's like one of those shoes where it's like, I don't know. For me, it always looked like a boot. Like the 10 of the 11, the 9, 10, 11s all look like boots to me.
I can see that. I like the 10s, the back of the 10s. It had that big Jordan, you know, sewn in Jordan logo at the back like that. That was pretty tough. That was my favorite part. But the rest of it, like you said, it could go for a boot. It was perfect in the winter because there wasn't anything other than that, you know, big paneling on the side. And even the toe box too was the same kind of full panel.
So you talked a little bit about playing ball, but like, where did you mainly grow up, and like, what was high school like for you?
Yeah, it's like, I'm a little bit all over. That's why my
Mm-hmm.
friends always tease me like, you don't have an accent, you don't have a northern accent or a southern accent. But I was born and raised in New York, in Long Island area.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was about 10, maybe 11, my parents took up and moved down to Blacksburg, Virginia,
Wow.
like southwest Virginia, right near the border of North Carolina. And if anyone's familiar with Virginia Tech, I'm sure you've heard of Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a college town that Virginia Tech's in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a quite drastically different life living down there.
What was that like? Because you went from New York to Virginia. Like, what was that like?
Bro, I remember I was going to like an all Jewish school here in New York, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
crazy, and it was intense, and it was super fun. But New York, you have everything to do. All my family was here, so my dad said he just wanted to move away from the city. There's too much crime and drugs and craziness, so we moved down to Virginia, and we met up with my cousins, and we ended up just opening a restaurant with my cousins. And mind you, my parents, it's funny, my parents are both creatives. My mom is an artist who does sports painting and painting and such. And my
Wow.
dad went to FIT, and he was like a sculptor and such. And he dealt in textiles when he was in New York. So they both just picked up everything they did and moved down to Blacksburg and took us with them and literally just started a bar. My mom did all the art for the bar and all this stuff. And my dad did all the, engineering and all that kind of actual work for like construction and all that kind of stuff. And it was different, man. It was cool, but it was super different. I remember, like you said, from a sneaker perspective, there was like one mall in Virginia, and it was like 30 minutes away, and they had like one Champ store, So like, it was totally different getting clothes and just seeing what people wear and stuff from like that kind of standpoint.
But like, did you start where? Like, you talked about the tens, but like, when did you get into sneakers when you were living in Long Island, or did you get into sneakers when you were living in Virginia?
I think so. I mean, granted, I was super young and stuff, but like all my family was around here, all my cousins, all my friends are around here, and like New York, they're into style and into shoes and all that kind of stuff. So I still remember, messing around with my cousin about like Nikes, Jordans back then and stuff were hard to get, and especially with, my family wasn't rich or anything like that. So you had to like beg your parents for a lot of money. And like, I still remember getting Airwalks growing up and like, even going to like, what is it, Payless or something, talking to my mom into getting some fake Adidas, stuff like that back in the day.
Yeah. Listen, Airwalks were in Payless. People don't know.
Oh, were they? I don't remember. That was my mom's store for a little bit. She just got like, my mom was into shoes. She worked like all the stores in New York and stuff. But like, I remember moving and all that. She would just go in there and get like, 10 pairs of shoes or something and take me to a pair of Champs and get like one pair, So it was a push and pull on what I could get. That was cool.
So she was getting the 10 pairs for her and you were getting the one for her?
I would talk her into getting a cool pair, yeah. But while I'm on Payless, she would get like 8 other pairs for her, and I'd be like,
I see. You're getting she was getting 10 pairs from Payless instead of spending for one good pair from Champs.
Yeah, exactly. And I would sneak in some stuff, and like it was tough to get the good ones.
So like, at what? So then you moved down to Virginia, right? And so that's where it expanded. Like you were like, all right, now I got to get more into sneakers. Or what was the style like in Virginia as like compared to New York? And were you messing with that style at that time?
Yeah, I think I was always into that stuff, and it was funny. Like all the friends I had, I played basketball, soccer. I played almost every sport. I ended up playing a couple in college, so like that actually helped me. But like because of that, and because of seeing these athletes, and how Nike and marketing have revolutionized the whole world, where like you put shoes on athletes and everyone want that, and entertainers and all that kind of stuff. And that's the game nowadays. And I think I was exposed to that in Virginia as well. And a lot of my friends were people like me. I was fortunate enough to find people who liked style and liked shoes and were into sports and all that. So I think I was definitely exposed to it in Virginia, and it's just the access to it. Like if you go to New York, you could get, any and everything, and you see special New York editions, this and that. And like, they're not going to have special PEs or anything cool releasing in Virginia. So I had to go to like the Champs, and it would be the GRs and all those ones, but they were still cool. And I would get, back then there wasn't really the internet as big. So it was getting Slam magazines and, watching what the players had and trying to get those kind of shoes. And it was easier to get those off the catalog back then. So
What was your school's like ball sneaker, or were you able to ball in any pair?
no, it was cool. So we had a cool dude who worked with us for the soccer team and the basketball team, and he worked at the
Mm-hmm.
store called CMT Sports. So
Mm-hmm.
like because of that, he would always hook us up with team shoes, and in soccer, he'd be like, "All right, I got you." Hook you up with the Adidas Predators, good stuff for like discounts and stuff. So like
Uh-huh.
every basketball team I played on, I would talk to that guy, and he'd hook up the team. Travis was a cool dude. Shout out Travis. No way he's watching this.
You never know. You never know. Shout out Travis, man.
Hey, you never know. Pass it along to him. He's doing good. Uh, but anyway, he would always hook us up, and I swear, like I remember, I was big into Nikes and stuff. So like, I can't remember what it was, the Jordan, but it was the Jumpman. One of the first years that the Team Jordan came out, and they had these
Mm-hmm.
Jumpman shoes, and they came out in like Michigan colors,
Mm-hmm.
and like white and black. And I remember those were the first ones I talked the team into getting the whole team shoes
Mm-hmm.
because we were the Wolf Pack when NWO was Wolf Pack was really big. Colors were red and black. But
Tomato face. My fantasy football team is called Tomato Face Stingers because of Wolfpack Sting.
hey, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought I really liked wrestling, but looking back on that day, I watched all that stuff. Everyone did. I feel like.
Look, everything's wrestling. I tell everybody everything's wrestling. There's stories. There's like you can disassociate yourself and become a wrestler at any moment of your life.
It's so true, man.
But like so. I'm very curious of like what was that moment where it hit you like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna make it to the league. Like when was your come to Jesus moment?
That's so funny. Yeah, that did happen. So like my two sports that I played, I played in high school. I played like golf, tennis,
Mm-hmm.
soccer, and basketball. But I was only really decent at soccer, not decent, but like good enough to play on the team, and then soccer and basketball. But like you said, I think it was freshman year that like I tried out for varsity. And I didn't make the varsity team. And I was like, all right, I might be a little short. I don't know if I want to make the league. I had the heart and stuff, but like it was, I was just, okay. And then I started sticking with soccer. So at least that was a little, better to try and go pro there.
Yeah. You played with anybody? Like, I don't know. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, you played with Landon Donovan, but like, did you play with like Freddie or something?
I got super lucky, man. I ended up playing in college and I played overseas for a little bit because like,
oh, snap.
Dude, I was decent, but like there was all these.
You should have just straight up just said, I was nice. You should have just straight up say it.
No, it was awesome. I was fortunate to play on this. When I moved to Blacksburg, they had a great soccer team there. So like when I was in high school, we went to state finals like all 4 years. We won it twice. And I just got lucky. I played with this guy who ended up playing for Arsenal. I swear to God, he was like one of the first Americans. So all the scouts would come and watch him and I'd get lucky and just kick him up some assists and stuff and make me look good. He was a savage, though. It was all him. It was crazy.
I mean, that's wild. So you were able to go to college on a scholarship because of soccer?
Yeah. Before, my grandfather was a lawyer, so I always wanted to be a lawyer. But like before those, dreams got big, it was really being a pro soccer player and doing all that. So I played in college and I played all 4 years, and I played a little overseas, during college and after that. And I just realized that like, it's fun, but like, soccer players, unless you're Messi, they barely make any money. And like, it's a struggle. And like, it was so hard to actually go to school, pay attention to school, have a life and like play soccer. It was like a full-time job,
Yeah.
So
what college did you end up going to?
Roanoke College. I went to Virginia Tech and Roanoke College. And Roanoke, where I played soccer for like the whole time. It was a little D3 school. And even that was like, the D1 is like it was even crazier. And then when I played at Roanoke, it was like unreal. It was still a lot of, it wasn't as crazy as D1, but it was still a lot of attention, even in the off season.
I'm very curious of like, so, I'm half Brazilian, so soccer's in my blood and I never got to pick it up really out here because soccer just never stuck when I was younger. right? Like it was hard. It was easier to find a basketball team to play on than it was to find a soccer field and a soccer team to play on. Like my mom wanted me to play soccer. She was like, you got to play more. Like I would get a basketball, I would get a soccer ball. And then I'd have to like practice in the backyard with both in order to like, she'd be like, okay, you need to, you got to do, you got to play with the soccer ball for a little bit, and then you can work on your basketball stuff. Like that's how she would always put it. And then until I just started to get really nice with basketball. And then she was like, all right, you could just be basketball. But like, soccer runs in the blood. All my cousins play soccer in Brazil. Like they're all nice as hell. Every time, like when I would go over there, they'd just be juggling the ball. And I'd be like, all right, man, like I can't do none of this. Like you gotta chill. But you played soccer in a time where I felt like soccer was starting to come to the United States. So like, what was that like for you specifically, especially, trying, remember, I mean, I brought up Freddie Adu, but remember how big of a deal Freddie Adu was, and like how he was like the saving grace of the future of soccer. And he didn't pan out to be what everybody thought he was going to be. When he went overseas, he end up becoming like a third stringer. So, you got to see the overseas part and you got to see the rise of it in America. But like, what was it for you being within that rise?
Dude, it's fun, man. It was super cool. When I was growing up, like you said, like I remember the World Cup in 1994 was in the USA. And I just remember like I was super young, but I remember like back then you had the VHS games. So I was like taping games and like, just like athletes do, they watch the games and watch the moves and all that stuff. And I was doing that back then. And like all the announcers were saying was US soccer is young, it's up and coming. Like they're just touting how nobody watches it in the US. And like finally the World Cup was in the US and people were paying a little bit of attention to it. Not much, but a little bit, you know? And that was 94. So like, it's just crazy just seeing how it's exploded. And like, the MLS, like I was telling you, one of my decisions like was, should I try to even play? I probably wouldn't have made, I wasn't professional good like that, like MLS players and stuff. But like, it was a decision. I was like, should I try hard and do this and such? But ultimately it was just such a young league. And like, a lot of my friends actually did play in the MLS, like that were goalies, people that I played against in, in club and in ODP and all this kind of stuff. And, I heard stories about how they were like working at Home Depot after, so like it was, it was tough for me to make that decision. And like, I instantly, wanted to be a lawyer. And the first thing I did after I was a lawyer is I was an agent. I was an agent for soccer players and an agent for, working with NFL players and stuff. So like I tried to dip my beak in the sports law thing, but it was a tough decision, just trying to, see how it was and play it out and watch it grow and, see how I wanted to be in it, whether I wanted to play in it or whether I wanted to, be like the business side of it and such. And it's just crazy to see how it's grown and from like a business and a financial standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, Inter Milan right now or Inter Miami is the biggest thing. Like, I mean, after watching the David Beckham doc, I didn't even know he was part owner. And then I was like, what? Wait a minute.
And that's probably the main reason he came. I could, he went over there and talked to the deal. It was crazy. That documentary was great. I agree.
That documentary was absolutely great. So like during that time, as you're, trying to figure out, is soccer for me or should I just, jump into law? Like, were you still collecting sneakers? Like at what point were you like, I'm jumping back into this, or?
I think I always was doing that. I mean, nothing like I am today and such, but I think I always had a passion for sneakers. And I'm one of those weird guys. My mom still makes fun of me to this day. Like I remember like buying all these Nike shoes, the 10s, whatever. And like, I would wear the hell out of them every day, every second, but I was meticulous on cleaning them. Every night I would go back and rub them and clean them and this and that. And like, these were back in the days when like you order from catalogs and like there are times where like the air bubble would pop and I'd like send it back to Nike and I would have to wait like 4 whole weeks for Nike in Memphis to get it and receive it and send me a new shoe. So I'd be like, wearing busted shoes up or something until that 4 weeks till they came back and all that stuff. And, it was just a different world back then, but I was always collecting them. I remember in college, I was a Air Max 90 guy.
Yeah.
The million different colorways. And then they had the JP versions and all these ones that were neon and all these cool ones. So like, I remember my college room, I had like a little setup, about like 20 shoes. They're all 20 Air Max 90s, different colors. And it was dope like that. And it even expanded to soccer cleats. I was obsessed with the Predators and Nike. So I would just collect them, just have a bunch of options for all the games.
Do you remember the Ronaldinho commercial. Is it Ronaldinho? The
Yeah.
Ronaldinho commercial with where he hits the goalpost over and over again.
Dude, that was awesome. I'm actually reading a great book about one of the guys who left Nike, was a VP and marketing director forever.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about that commercial in it. He talks about how like they gave the team a low budget, and they're like, all right, make a commercial with Ronaldinho. You don't have a lot of budget, get creative, and that's what they came up with. Obviously, it was like, it's not real, because he hits the post and it comes back and he keeps dinging it back and forth, and like, but like,
wait, it's
just
not real.
No, it's. I mean, that
that's real. That's real. I'm leaving. I'm taking that to my grave. It's real.
There's no way you could kick it, hit the crossbar, have it come right back to you, then do it again and again like that. I wish, bro.
He's Ronaldinho, man. He's Ronaldinho.
No, I swear, people have like really thought that and said that stuff to me. That's why I'm like, come on, man. He's nasty. I agree, but like, it was such a great commercial though.
Yeah.
Because like that to me like was the beginning of like all the freestyle commercials. Remember when Nike did the freestyle soccer ones, or even like the basketball ones they do nowadays?
That's when they started. I think it was did Nike create the phrase "joga bonito"?
Or was it? Yeah. I don't know if they created it, but I
know they used it. Yeah,
they used it with Brazil because they were like one of the first teams to have the Brazil sponsor and such. Not first. Yeah. They did a big deal out of it. That was awesome.
I mean, yeah, that commercial, dude, you don't even know how I had it saved on my desktop on my compact computer because I would watch it and then I'd watch it continuously, just be like, yeah, this is it. Like it got me hyped for some reason. And I just
you're right, bro. That's how it was. I remember the same thing. We'd like download the movies and videos before the big game. We put it on, watch that 30-second clip, be like, ooh.
That was you're about to go crazy, and then they lose to France.
Right? Zidane was beast, though. Gosh.
Yeah. But so then, you're collecting sneakers. What was your first job that you bought your first pair of kicks with? Or like, what was the first pair of kicks and what was your first job for those first pair of kicks?
Oh, so I mean, I had a bunch of jobs. I mean, I was never not having a job, to be honest.
I feel like you're a constant worker, man. Like
even back then. So I remember the main thing. I worked at a Champs, a Foot Locker, and then an Under Armour. Throughout a couple of years. But like those jobs were only so I could get like discounts on kicks and do stuff like that. And those were sort of fun. But I think one of my first jobs was just working at my parents' restaurant over the summer because you can get away with it when you're like young and
that's true.
Like that and do that. Legally speaking, I promise. But yeah, it was like, 18 or whatever it was, 17 or something like that, working, as a busboy or something like that. And then obviously I went to
yeah, because imagine you 13, or I don't know how old I don't know how old your parents had the restaurant, but imagine you 13, just pick it and be like, all right, what you need? All right, I got you. You looking for a toast?
If my parents good, they probably would. They have that great attitude. They push me, so if they would get away with it, they would have made me go to work. But yeah, that would be fine.
What was that first pair that you bought with your own money?
I think it was the pennies. I was trying to think of it. I was obsessed with I love Penny Hardaway was one of my favorite. I love that Penny Shaq duo back in the 90s. I wanted them just to beat everybody. So I think it was maybe the Air Penny 2s. The ones are dope, but I think it was the 2s that I was in love with. The white ones and the black ones. I literally had to have both pairs. That's when I was first getting super big into shoes, and it was like the AAU time when I was playing AAU and all that.
That's wild. What was it like playing AAU? And like I think I'm trying to, because you aren't like we are not the same height, so I'm just not trying to like
5'7" on a 5'8" in some big Air Force Ones or something like that. Something tall. I was the point guard. It was fun. I had I got steals and assists, but like everyone else was so much bigger and taller and better than me and stuff. And I had the heart, and I was usually a starter or the sixth man and such, but it was still just like it was a different world. And especially AAU, like people are nasty in Virginia, Virginia Beach area, DC kind of area. So I remember I remember the first time I realized it, tying in with your other question, was that same year, freshman year, probably AAU. I got dunked on, literally dunked on. Like, I think the guy probably went over me. I'm not even kidding. I don't know if I ducked, but like it was a crazy feeling. I was like, damn, these guys, Martinsville, Virginia team. I remember them. They were nasty.
That's wild. I've never been dunked on, but I know I talked to my boy about this, and he's like, I won't let anybody ever dunk on me. And I was just like, what do you mean? And he was just like, if somebody goes up, just know they probably coming down. I was just like, Jesus.
Yeah, dude. There's no way I was stopping. This dude was huge, dude. Seriously. That's why I said I think I probably like put my hands up and like, it was crazy. It was on a fast break and I was taking a charge and it was like some fucking highlight shit. It was crazy. Thank God they didn't have cameras and stuff back then.
You would have been on slam.
Seriously, that was the one benefit of growing up when I did. No green cameras, no doorbell. You know, we got away with some stuff.
Man. So then, yeah, I'm so curious about this pivot because you talked about, becoming an agent, dealing with sports law, and well, actually, first of all, how long did it take you, and how did you push yourself to get through law school? Because I feel like law school is the biggest task. This is like right behind doctor, because doctor, you're going through 8 years, then you got to do your residency and all that stuff. And then after that, it's like, I feel like becoming a lawyer, well, like a really good lawyer is you got to do that schooling. You got to, there's tons of internship. I mean, unless you're Mike Ross, you're not going to be doing no shortcuts into becoming a partner or something like that. So yeah, what was your route and process?
It's funny, bro. Real quick. So my roommate in law school his name was Michael Ross. I promise the guys. So we always watch Suits and like, cool dude. Shout out to Mike Ross. He's a cool dude now. He does like criminal law. But like, you're right. Law school is tough, man. I mean, all the law students, anyone law students listen, I'm sure you guys know any lawyers. Like, to me, it was just like, it's a lot of reading, It's like totally the opposite of the previous kind of school that you do, where like, you'll have a brief, session on this book or that book, and you'll have a test here, and like you get grades based on this or that. But it's just like, read this whole book, and then at the end of 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, you're gonna have a test on it, and that's all. That one test counts as everything. And that's how they prepare you for the bar exam, because it's just one big fucking 2-day test that counts for everything. Yeah. So to me, that was the biggest thing. Like, to be honest, I like reading like short novels, Goosebumps. No, I do like the Goosebumps stuff. I like the shorter kind of stuff, like
Morphs.
Exactly, those are good stuff. But yeah, like college, I played sports, and I read a little bit, but it wasn't like the crazy reading. And then when I got in law school, I was like, shit, I got to do this reading. Like, it's costing me $1 million, so I'm at least going to absorb it and learn it. And like, you have to get good grades to do this and do that. So like, I've always been a good student, but like law school was just like, turning up another notch. I went to school in Michigan. It was freezing cold there. So like, there was literally nothing else to do. It was literally me and Michael Ross watching Suits, doing law school stuff, going to sports games and stuff like that. So it was cool. And I was fortunate enough to get that experience and just get through it and pass the bar. And it's awesome. I'm super thankful to that. My grandfather was a lawyer and a CPA in New York. So that was sort of my inspiration just growing up. Always knew that, if he could do it, I could do it. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Were you able to, I don't know, like, were you able to just be like, okay, you're one of those kids that was like, oh no, my grandfather's going to let me work for him? Or did you have a different route?
Bro, my grandfather, rest in peace. He was like 94, right when I graduated, and then he passed away the year I graduated. And like, so unfortunately, I was never one of those lucky guys where like you could just slide into a family firm and such like that. But like, just like we talked about earlier, I was always getting internships and working and doing this. So like, it was super, fun for me to work in a bunch of different fields and get practice and just, work my way to where I am now.
No, yeah. Definitely talk about like your decision to pivot off of like working under somebody and then being like, I'm gonna do my own. But like, what was your steps to that? Like, were you thinking about it at one point? Was there a case that just like you were just like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like, was there a moment for you?
That's funny. There were some eureka moments, man. You're exactly right. I mean, I think I just remember when I was graduating law school, I like I said, during law school, I was like the president of Sports Law Society, intellectual property. I was, doing everything that people told me I should do so I could get a job right out of it and work for like, someone in sports. And the New York Jets, my favorite team. So I always was close with the Jets lawyers and like, Jets team and managers and like into them. And I, got to interview like right after law school. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 years right after law school. I interviewed there, and unfortunately, they ended up not hiring anyone. It was me and this one other dude, and they just said they didn't have the money to bring it on. They're going to keep one dude. And I remember asking my mentor at the time who was there, and he said, just keep learning, keep practicing. There's nothing you can do. Like I said, what can I do? What do you want me to do? That kind of stuff. Because I thought I'd get a quick fix and just work my dream job right out of the bat.
Yeah.
But he said, just practice law, go out and do it. And I think that was just the best advice I got, because like right after that, I was like, all right, there's a million different areas of law. I know I like the business stuff, but let's go experience and see what I could do. So before I did the Jets interview thing, I did a little criminal law and insurance law kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I also ended up doing the sports agent stuff when I was in DC for a bit, the NFL Players Association.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. And then I started doing in-house work, like you were saying, just working under other people, just because that paid the bills. It was the government I worked for a couple of years, and then a couple of tech companies, to get some money in DC. And I think those are my eureka moments, because like all throughout those times, I had great mentors and great employees and great bosses that I worked with. And like I learned some good stuff and I saw some bad stuff, and all that stuff I learned. And, it was, just pivoting and finding out what I liked. And I think there was just always like this passion for me in sneakers. I remember when I was in-house for some of these tech companies in DC, I would have StockX. This was like, it was eBay and then StockX when it started coming big and stuff up on my computer, looking at shoes and buying shoes and stuff. And the guys would always come in what's it called? The business team saying, hey, I got a contract for you to read, do this, do that. And I had a StockX up, and like, they'd always look at my shoes and be like, oh shoot, you got those on today. Like I would wear like a nice little lawyer outfit, but always some different shoes and pivot. And I was known as like the sneaker lawyer is what they started calling me and stuff at all these places. So like, and at the same time, I had friends who were at SneakerCon, like influencers. And, it was like, I think it was probably right around when Yeezy was getting big, 2014, 15 and 16 with all that kind of craze. And I actually started getting clients in sneakers, because I would go to the SneakerCon and go to these events and talk to people and like talk to them about the law. And then it was just like, organic, that I would work my 9 to 5 at the tech companies, come home and just do sneaker deals, or like talk to my boys about contracts with sneakers or do trademarks and stuff. And like, it was just super cool. And then eventually one thing led to the next, and I was able to, get enough courage to be like, all right, I could just do this on my own. I don't need that. So it's super fun. And like I said, I'm just fortunate that it was like organically happened and all that.
What, I mean, I was going to ask, like, were you rocking heat like in the offices or something like that? But you confirmed that you confirmed heat was copped and rocked.
It was a little of both. Back then I wasn't like as crazy, the market was different too, so I think back then I worked at Champs. So I would get some, GRs and some cool stuff when it came in. And then I also worked at Under Armour. So I was wearing a lot of the Currys, like in the original days, the Curry ones and those Curry clutch fit drives, the ones like before he had his own line. Those were so big, man. I'm telling you, people were reselling those and they were selling out. It was crazy.
Until the white one, that white dad shoe that got
I remember
basted.
I got those in the low and I was like, I can't even wait.
So like you were doing, it wasn't pro bono per se, but you were like doing you were working at this firm and also working at Champs.
I mean, at first it really was pro bono, like everyone says, give a little, but like half the time, like I think one of the first things I did, I remember my homie was like, hey, can you read this contract for me? And that's what I did for a living. Like 9 to 5, I read, 20, 30 contracts a day. So I was like, oh shit, this will take me 30 minutes. I'll do it. Just, hook me up with a pair of shoes or something. And that's literally how it started. I was like, oh shit, that was easy. That was cool. So like, sometimes it was like, doing that. And then eventually I was like, okay, I could actually create an LLC. And, just like I preached to my clients and stuff, I had my own little company on the side, but it was only like, 5 hours a week, 6 hours, something like that. And then like, used to build up. Now I do like 80 hours a freaking week. And it's like, it's awesome. But it's like, it was a gradual progression when I was still in my 9 to 5 coming home and, doing the sneaker lawyer stuff on the side.
And during this time, were you back in New York or were you in Virginia, like Michigan? Where were you at this time?
I was all over, bro. So I think when the sneaker lawyer stuff, it was probably like Virginia, DC. I lived in DC before I came back down here to New York. It was like 5 years in DC or 6 years in DC. So yeah, it was probably right when I was in Virginia and I was doing that stuff. And it was, mainly trademarks or, a lot of people live in that DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I was surprised. So like it was really just going to the sneaker conventions and stuff there and meeting people as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about that because I wasn't able to, I don't have a car, so I never made the treks down around the DMV area, but I got the taste of New York sneaker culture. I got to go to the first sneaker con here, and I got to go to all the Dunk Exchange and stuff like that out here. But what was it like going to these things in Virginia and like what was sneaker culture being perceived to you then, and then in compares to like what you're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't miss much, dude. Especially back then. I feel like, I mean, DC got some of the stuff, but it was popping in New York. All the craziness that you see, with the pigeon dunk, all that craziness. Like that was, 2005. That was like super early, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
DC and then Virginia were they were still one of the main areas, one of the bigger targets for all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't as big as New York. It was just a different style as well. Not only access, but like, they didn't have that many stores that had heat or had any of that kind of stuff. It's a little different now, to be honest. It's a lot of resale stores, just like it is all over nowadays.
Yeah.
But like, get heat there now. You could have access to, Stone Island or Mischief or a lot of stuff that you only hear about in New York. You could get all over now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I'm very curious of like, how'd you learn to talk to people? Because I feel like, now it's not as like common. I mean, we go to conventions and it's kind of like there, you can see the difference between people who can talk to people. Like, obviously when we met each other, it was instantly like, oh, we bounce energies. It was instant like that. So, and I'm pretty good at just learning, like talking to people and getting them to, lower their guards really quick and get in, talk to people. But, now it's different. Right. But where did you learn how to do that? And how does that, like, I mean, it translates into your work. I mean, you talk to, I've seen you work a room.
No, but it's not really, I see what you're saying, but it's not working. It's really just, like I said, just being organic and being authentic. And I think that's like, that hits home to everyone. And like, I want to tribute my family and friends, like, everyone growing up, like, just told me to keep being you. And I told you, my parents are creative. So like, I've always had that different kind of view on life and, been a little weird, like in a good way, but like, I just like to be myself and like, create sneaker and streetwear legal service firms and like, law firms and weird stuff like that. So like, I think, like you said, when I talk to people, your passion spills out and people could hear that I really like, fashion and sneakers and like, you just got to care about people as well. So I think that, you do a great job of it too. And like, when you meet people like that, the energy is there. Just like you said, it's all about energy and vibes to me. And I feel like, you can feel people's energy and, see how you get along and test them out if they're true. So I think it's perfect in like my industry, just because I'm talking to sneakerheads most of the time. A lot of my lawyer friends are talking to, business people who are doing, some crazy thing that they've never even heard of, but they're either with their firm and they can't say no, or they're just like, okay, cool, this is a good client, but like they have to research and they know nothing about it. But for me, it's like, this is the world I eat and breathe and live in. And like, we do so much from, instead of just contracts and IP, we like, work with our clients and go to the factories and, look at the shoes and like tell them about trademarks and trade dress. And, we're more hands-on and stuff. And that's just cause like, that's fun to me, So I think that correlates and, just not being an asshole lawyer and like charging for every 2 minutes or 5 minutes and stuff, like, I feel like that kind of stuff rubs off on your clients and you can understand why, like, it builds a relationship for the future. So that's important to us in our firm.
No, yeah. It's super dope because, the idea of law, I think, turns off a lot of people just in general, and I'll be honest, like in the beginning, I was like sneaker, like I didn't even know you needed to understand like law in order to release a sneaker, like and then as I spend more time paying attention to a lot of this stuff, look, you know about Chinatown. Like Chinatown was the Wild West back in the day. You rock fake sneakers.
Canal Street. My mom and my sister were obsessed with Canal Street. I know exactly what you mean.
And it's interesting, like, because you work in this now. You're literally working within this. But if you think about back in the day, how can you process how that happened and like all the raids, all these do you think about it and be like, oh, how did this like last for so long and how does fake sneakers just happen so like organically?
Yeah, bro. It's funny you say that. I'm laughing. Like, I apologize. I'm laughing while you're talking because I was thinking of like you said, like growing up through that stuff and seeing the evolution of all that. Because like, I'm sure that the cops were raiding all that stuff back in the day when we were like, young kids growing up going to Canal Street. I guarantee that. It's just like we probably didn't pay attention to the news, and we weren't lawyers, and we weren't doing what we're doing in the industry to like pay attention to that stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I remember, me and my mom, my sister going on Canal Street. Mom would go like, like talk to someone or something like that. It was really my sister. My mom always got like the real ones, and like would talk to her sister and get like stuff like that. But like my sister would be like the one who would always try to get the fakies and such and bring them back to Virginia and do all that stuff. And it went from being super out in the open, like you said, to like hiding behind like doors, like putting them in plastic bags and running around the corner. You know how crazy it is now. And I just remember, like, I didn't know why. I was always like, why? Cops are going to, what the heck? But like, just being in New York the past couple of years, I was walking through Times Square when the first year I was here. And I literally saw the cops stealing all the purses and raiding and stuff. And like people were crying. Like it was crazy, just because it's counterfeit. Yeah. And Louis Vuitton cares about that stuff now. And like all these big brands. Yeah. It's wild, man. It's another world.
I mean, it's wild that the idea of like, because I don't know if I can ask you this, but let me know if I can ask you this. But the idea of like how crazy reps are now, right? And I mean, they're as close to actual. I mean, as we could get as close to as possible. Even I talked about this on a previous episode. Like I don't buy any, but I pay attention to what is in circulation, so I don't get got. The idea of like, this shoe is highly replicated right now, so I'm not going to be trying to buy this on the StockX. I'm not trying to buy this from secondhand because I don't want to get got. Not to gloat, never been got in my life so far, so track record is clean. And now I'm strictly buying from retailers only. So hopefully I stay the course. But you as a lawyer, and you've seen the rise of reps in 2020, that, social media had taken it over and condoned it as being okay. But as like a person who's into sneakers and a person who is into the legal side of sneakers, like how does that look to you?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. And that's sort of like why, like, I feel like the law aspects, like, have been like magnified over the past 5-6 years from like maybe even even a little longer than that, but like because of the rep scene and because of Nike going so hard and like all these big brands like continuing to go hard, like people are aware of the legal aspect of it and the fact that reps exist, and like if you sell a rep you could get in trouble now. There's that case, of course I'm not gonna think of his name now, but like the famous rep guy that just got sued by Nike last month, I think it was, because he made like a video how he like sold reps back to Nike, and like he put it on YouTube, and like he was pushing reps and all that kind of stuff. And, that's against the law. It's what it is. And most of the time those are made over the seas. So it's super tough to go after people in China and deal with that. So I think it's just like a crazy market that exists out there. And as you mentioned, some people are all on board for reps because of the prices of sneakers these days. And other people are like the exact opposite. So it's a super interesting debate and super interesting just to hear people who are on both sides of that. But like, what it comes down to is most reps are, depending on how you're using them or whatever, like they're legal, or like, because like people will end up selling them and, they'll get into circulation and stuff. So, if you're buying them for a personal reason or, not selling them, that might be a little different. But what do you do with it when you're done with them? They're going to go to somebody's yard sale, or someone's going to pick them up and think they're real and sell them. And like, it's all a bunch of laws that like actually are valid, So I'm not hating the rep people. I understand their side and such, especially with the prices, but it's, it's a tricky kind of question. But it's magnified now.
No, yeah. I don't know where the acceptance for reps came from, but like as someone who loves sneaker culture, it does feel like it's like a tarnish, right? If you have one. And then I've had like, I mean, look.
What did that one guy say? I remember, I think it's the podcast. I was like the Sneak This podcast. They said like, or it might be Sock Jig too. Both of them was great. Plug for both of them. But it's like, if you have one rep, it's like peeing in the pool. It destroys the credibility for everything. And I still feel like that too. It's like, I have like check that I use if I buy anything. And like most of the time I go through eBay because they're dope and they got a good system to check all that stuff. But you're right, it's
Yeah.
tough nowadays to find everything. So
No, yeah. I'm a big believer of just like if it was meant for you to cop, then when you try to cop, then it is.
really, get out of here! You can't do that. What about all the ones you don't get? That's impossible for me, man. There's so many ones that I want that I have to get some resale. So
there's gonna be another one. That's what I'm saying. So even if you cop the one that you really wanted, you pay 3 times for it, right? You're gonna want the next 3 releases that you're like, oh, I need these too.
Of course, that is always what happens. But
and then so say if you got all those 3 releases for retail, right?
It's the same price as that one.
Yeah. Why did you spend, you could have just took that money, saved that money, and then just bought another 3 pairs of sneakers at retail. You know what I mean?
If it's some heat you have to have, though, it's impossible.
The only leeway is if like you're trying to buy a Grail, right? And you're gonna kill that shoe this week. Like you wanted this shoe for years and years and years. And then you're like, okay, I found a price. I'm gonna pay $500 for these. I'm gonna do it, right?
I mean, I hear you. There's times where I'm like, if like sometimes the shoe will be retail or even under retail or close to or like barely over retail before it even releases, and then like I'll buy it for like $30-$40 over retail, and then it drops and it goes to like double retail, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did that, but it's still like sometimes you have to pull the trigger on those.
Well, look, it's bad that, we're talking about this when the market is down right now. So like, I feel like everything has been pretty easy to get. And, it's where the real sneakerheads are staying, continue to buy sneakers, and versus the people who are just in it to try to flip for money. And now they're realizing, oh, snap, I'm holding on to a bunch of these. And no, they're not. They're just sitting. Like, what am I going to do? And that leads into, this I'm big on like over consuming of material things, of just like, having a ton of one pair. I'm against. Like if you have the 2005 bred 4s and now you're buying the current reiteration, like why? What happened to this one? Why didn't you just throw these out and then buy another pair? Instead, you're holding on to this one. You haven't worn it yet. Wear the damn shoe, and then you don't need to wear the ones that just came out.
I agree, man. My other background you can't see is like all my shoes, and it's like a rainbow of colors and all that stuff. And like it's funny when I have that background, people ask me, "Are those all yours? Do you wear all those?" And I do. Like every single one I've worn at least once, twice, 3 times. Like I try to switch them up, but it's like, literally like the point of wearing shoes is to wear them, whether they're $100 shoes or, Grails or whatever it is. So I love wearing all my shoes. And I think that's the, best part of actually buying them, not just flexing on the gram, but like actually like, wearing them and having fun in them.
I mean, you be killing it though. Cause like, I would just want to see one day you pull up in the court and you're rocking like you're rocking your merch, and you got on like some crazy heat, and you're just like, Your Honor, this is objection, Your Honor.
The objection. No, it's funny. Like court's the only time I actually have to dress. I still wear Nikes, the Nike dress shoes, or like the some of the. What are the Air Peace ones and such like that? But
what's that one? The one that was like wingtips. You got those?
Yeah, those are what I'm talking about. I wear those with the black suit ones and stuff. Like, you got to show respect to the judge and the rules and all the old people, like all that stuff.
The judge never stop you and be like, "Sir, are those? Are you wearing sneakers in my court?"
I wish. I did this internship thing with a judge when I was in law school, and I remember I would like, try and wear shoes in that and stuff, and she would always comment on it. I was like, "Oh, sure, you like them," and she's like, "No, you still got to wear your other, you still got to look like a lawyer and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, come on!" I thought I could get away with it on like a Friday and stuff. It was in like Miami too, it was hot as hell. But yeah, like that was sort of like why I did my firm too.
I feel like my bad for cutting you off, but I feel like Florida is the one state you can be like, you could pull up with like shorts and a Hawaiian shirt and still be overdressed for court, man.
I wish. In court is different, but you're right. Like to the depositions and to all that stuff, I've seen some crazy lawyer outfits in Florida, like, and I love that. I still do that now. It's fun.
No, but what you were saying about working with the judge And
excuse me. No, I was just saying, I think that kind of attitude is sort of what shapes my, sneaker legal and like, what I do now, just because I feel like there's such a stereotype or perception of lawyers that like, you got to wear a suit, and like every ad that I see on TikTok, Instagram, all these ones, like I shouldn't say every now. I apologize. There's a cool little niche of lawyers and stuff who are doing their own thing too. But like most of them are like suit and tie. Oh, were you in a car accident and all this kind of stuff? Like you could, that's just a perception. And I feel like the most important thing is what we talked about earlier, just being you, being yourself. So like you can still be a good lawyer and wear, Kith and, ALD and Stone Island and like, cool, whatever stuff that you like, it doesn't mean anything like that, just dress what is comfortable to you and, wear whatever you want. So like we said, it's different if you're going into court, maybe you have to show some decorum there and wear stuff like that. But like, just be you. And I think that like working with the judge and working with all these law firms and such, that like we're strict about that stuff for no reason, even in Florida. It's like, bro, I'm sweating and dying here. You're going to wear a tie on a Friday just to like prove that like, I'm worth it. Like, come on, man. Like you could be a human. And like, there are a bunch of lawyers I worked with who are actually human like that. Like I remember Miami ones who like didn't care and they were super cool and, were like that. And I think just, I've been fortunate enough to work with those guys and like a bunch of other cool lawyers that let me like learn that kind of stuff and, let me be me after, doing it for 10 years. So,
I mean, I just, if I ever get sued, you're definitely going to be my lawyer, but I'm going to need under one stipulation.
Don't get sued. Be good. I don't want to represent you. I'll protect the podcast or something, but you be
good. But if I get sued, you have to pull up in a Brooks Brothers Supreme suit, top to bottom.
But that's how it was in law school. I remember like that was my main go-to stores, the Brooks Brothers and the oh my gosh, all those places. What else is that? I don't even remember. I can't even remember that. Polo, obviously, but it's like that same kind of ones. So I don't know. For you, I'll do anything, bro. But I don't know. We'll talk about. I mean,
my case will be very easy. It's just gonna be like. Somebody's gonna be like defamation suit on a be like, oh, I didn't mean to say that on this podcast, and then I'll just play the audio like you said it, and then that's it. You just got to be like, Your Honor, throw this out. You need to throw this out. There you go, bam.
Those are the key words. You said them. You learned them from suits, man. That's right. You got it. Just don't get in trouble.
Conjecture, hearsay. I got it. I got a couple of them.
See, that's true, man. That's the problem. Everyone watched Suits, and now they're all lawyers. So
I mean, look, it's coming back. All right, we got Suits LA coming up. We got.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Wow.
You better get a consultant credit. It'd be like, yo, listen, you need to do an episode where somebody's getting sued for trademark infringement on a sneaker, and then you'd be like, let me get in that Suits cut. You know what I mean?
Cool idea. You're right. Let me reach out. I gotta tell my team that. That's a nice idea. Even if they like get sued by the sneaker lawyer or something dope like that, like that's a cool idea. I like what you're doing.
15% is
that's
but like, before we jump in towards the end of the podcast, I definitely wanted to ask, like, what inspired you to actually, you got into sneaker law, but like, what inspired you to just start talking on social media about it and bringing it to more eyes and about what you do, and like what instead of being like, hey, make a commercial, hey, are you being sued? Did you copy a silhouette, like, and one of those, you're just like, I'm a take my take of how to make this stuff digestible for everybody. I'm like, what made you want to do that?
Yeah, you're right. That's a good question too. And I think like, I just remember, like you said, I was doing this for a while, even before on Instagram. And I remember like my Instagram, my first legal name for my law firm was like the Law Office of Zak Kurtz, and it's like, no one cares about that shit. There's a million the law offices of this and that. And like, everyone has Schmenigel, Harper, LaBelle, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
I remember being under that. And I was like, there was a couple like sneaker lawsuit kind of things about like, the Air Force Ones and all this stuff. And I was talking about it, I was like, oh, this stuff's fun. And then like, I was just like looking up trademarks and all this, the stuff I post on Twitter and on Instagram and stuff nowadays. Yeah. But it's like, it's literally the picture of a shoe. Actually, I got them back here. Yeah, whatever. You guys know what I mean. But it's like a picture, pretty much a design picture of a sneaker, you know? But it's a legal document and it's a trademark or a patent. And it's like, dude, that looks dope, And I was like, I love sneakers. This looks really cool. So it just, I posted it, and I was like, damn, this is a cool little thing. So I just started like doing more content about that. And then like, that was right when Instagram was starting to get big with the influencers. And I represented a lot of, my friends like Yeezy Busta, homie. He's an awesome guy. And like, he was getting big into that. And I just like saw him and sort of was trying to pivot and do what he was doing. And I switched the name, to, originally it was Sneaker Law Firm, and now it's Sneaker Legal. And like, I've just been staying in that little niche area of myself and just like doing the same kind of content and like, similar stuff. I'm trying to switch it up more now and do more videos. So I did a post video this week, and, I got a couple more planned and stuff. And I think like, that's sort of the next wave. Everyone uses TikTok. Everyone uses, these social media mediums to connect and to reach, their audience. And I think that's really what I need to do, because it's fun. I mean, I'm literally sitting here grabbing shoes and pointing, talking about shoes and stuff. And you'll see in my next couple of videos, that's exactly what I do. Like I use my collection and I like talk about customs and I talk about trademarks and I talk about patents, and like, it's a lot more digestible, I feel like, when you're holding a shoe that people could see, as opposed to like a lot of the other lawyers who just, will just talk about it, or, or they'll put up like, random pictures up there and stuff. But if you're like holding sneakers and showing and like saying, this is a trademark, this is this, and like, like the same kind of thing I do for my clients on a daily basis. When they ask me questions, I'm like, I'm one of those walk and talk guys. So I walk and talk, I'm holding shoes and talking to them and like, all that kind of stuff. So like, I just put it on video and stuff. And I think it just translates really well because, the visual aspect of it. So, I think it's a good question you asked. And I think, like you said, just turning up that notch and, turning into Sneaker Legal and like doing, more stuff that appeal to people like me, are really just like, where it's at, and it's funny because that's the main kind of marketing I do. I literally am on Instagram. That's it. Like, that's how I get my clients and stuff, and just word of mouth. Literally, I like, don't do, any other thing really for marketing that. And it's just been working so far because it's like, digestible and it helps people. And, and I'm not in it for the money or any of that shit. I'm in it just to help smaller brands and, protect themselves. And eventually they'll be super big and badass, and they'll remember me and be my friend. So
take you to a Jersey Devils game. I saw that.
That was cool too. But yeah, like that's what it's about. It's just like, connections and like, building relationships with people more than, billing people $1,000 an hour and like making a couple of $1,000, it's fun. And I think that social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that allow you to like meet people like you and reach out and get on podcasts like this and, talk to people about shoes. And, most people wouldn't think lawyers would know about shoes or, know about this or, it's opening yourself up. And I really like that aspect of it.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm glad I got to reach out to you because, we talked about, we had a whole meeting before this. And yes, if you're listening, I'm coming for you. If, coming for you. But I think one of like the rarest qualities, especially like in this realm, when you're talking to somebody who's is about the law so sensitive and such like that, but like talking to you about it made it very simple, and it's like that's part of the thing. I think a lot of people, we talk about bad contracts and we make fun of bad contracts constantly. I mean, recently Kanye talking about his craziness and how he thinks he's in a bad contract, but if you it's funny because when it comes to him, and this is just the biggest name I'm throwing out there because, you have Bobby Shmurda with his contract, people, the biggest thing is that, these contracts are all about throwing in extra jargon that your lawyer is supposed to read, but if you don't have a lawyer, then you're just signing it because you're just like, I don't understand. I see that the money's coming up front right now, but I don't see that I'm signing for this and this in perpetuity. I'm a big Shark Tank guy. So
oh yeah, like, the perpetuity. I see you.
Yeah. So I don't want to be caught in a 360 deal, but a lot of people are just they're in a rough time. They got this their big break. They think they're going to lose it if they don't get it. So we got to do it now. But it's great. I just want to give you your flowers of just that you're able to just not just be like, hey, this is what it says. You're also just like, this is what you should take into account. And then you add in that extra, I don't want to say like commonplace talk, but you add a little dumbing down so that everybody can understand it. And, I think a lot of people don't say that they appreciate it, but I'm pretty sure a million people will just appreciate it because you get all the retweets, you get all the like people are able to talk about a specific legal topic more because of you, especially in this niche.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Like, that's to be honest, man, that's the most important thing to me. Like I said, I don't do it for the money or the, Instagram followers or any of that kind of stuff. I think like the most important thing is leaving a legacy, not just for my name, but like, helping people in the future, whether it's one person for 1 minute or like, someone for 10, 20 years with their brand. Like, trademarks last forever. So like, it's a great feeling to get a brand owner a registered trademark that they could use for their grandchildren and forever and ever and build a brand. So like, it means a lot to hear that. And like, that's the goal of this thing, just to, help as many people as possible while we're on this short planet, planet for so, such a short time. Sorry.
Yeah. The short planet.
Short planet. My little short came up to me. What's up, Bubba?
All right. So now we're at the end of the podcast. I got one last question to ask you, Zak, and it revolves around you thinking about that time where you were about to open that box for the Air Jordan 10s. Now little Zak about to open that box. So now you're you. Travel back in time right behind yourself. What would you tell your younger self as they open that box?
That's a good one. I mean, what would I tell myself? I think I did everything right. I'd rock them and still do that. But I guess what would I tell myself? I'd say maybe hold on to these puppies and try and trade them to one of your homies. They're cool, but like all my friends at the time would always get the coolest stuff and all that. And like, I think it was the year after that me and my buddies started trading. So I think knowing what I knew about them and like, how I used those, I think like, when was it the foams that might've came out at the same time, or like there was some cool stuff coming out then. So like I should have started the trade game early if I knew that. I still like them and I don't regret what happened, but like, if I could go back and open that box, I'd be like, oh, these are fresh. Talk to your boy, Bart or Neil, who are like some of my neighbors and stuff who we'd always like trade shoes with. So that way I would have upgraded a little early on.
Perfectly said. Thank you so much for jumping on, Zak. And for everybody out there, we say each week, wear your kicks. Peace.